we are previewing my alma mater, the Syracuse Orange at number 19 Pitt. Thursday night game, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. And the storyline, as much as I wanted to make it about Syracuse, the storyline is really about the Pitt Panthers right now for the incredible run that they've had. They've been one of the biggest surprises in college football so far this year. Last year, they finished with a 3-9 record, which was their worst record in the 21st century. So they entered this season with a projected win total of 5.5. They've already surpassed that win total in the first half of the year, and they're 6-0 for the first time since 1982, back when Dan Marino was quarterbacking the Pitt Panthers. Now, they look to further prove their legitimacy in the ACC against Syracuse, who's currently 5-1 in the season and has the second most votes among unranked schools in the AP poll this week. So if Syracuse wins, by all accounts, they will be a top 25 team, but Pitt is trying to continue their undefeated season and prove that they're a legitimate ACC contender.
Absolutely, and I think as far as the ACC goes, this is the first of two games we're going to talk about that kind of feel like ACC kind of eliminator games, right? I think we really have 6 teams at the top here. You've got Miami, Clemson, you've got these two teams, and you've got Duke and SMU, who we'll talk about later. But with these two ACC games, these are huge games we've got, and I think the loser really kind of gets really on the outside track when you're talking about trying to get in the ACC title game. This is a massive game, and we've got another massive game coming later. But how about is this the first week we're covering Thursday and Friday and Saturday?
Oh, yeah.
This is just fantastic.
3 days of college football.
Getting a game like this on a Thursday night is just awesome.
Absolutely. We've got this going on with Thursday Night Football in the NFL as well, and I'll be glued to the Syracuse Pitt game over that NFL game. But Dawn, you have the Pitt Panthers offense, so what should we be looking out for when the Panthers have the ball?
So I think we just have to kind of introduce everybody to these two quarterbacks, right? And I'll start on the Pitt side with Eli Holstein, and it was pretty surprising in the preseason when we thought for a while it was going to be Nate Yarnell starting for them, and Holstein in the last about 3 weeks before the season started went in and stole the job, and he's done a solid job here, right? 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, but the one thing I'm kind of seeing is you're seeing a lot of it's a lot of gambling. He's kind of a gunslinger, right? And sometimes he tries to fit balls into tight windows, and I'm a little worried because they play in so many close games. The 4 Power 5 wins that they have, their point differential in those 4 games put together is plus 17. They're winning a lot of close games. They're getting away with some mistakes. They're forcing some mistakes from their opponents. But I just wonder a little bit. I'm like, man, Eli Holstein only a 57.9 passing grade despite some of the better traditional numbers. And the big thing is he's getting away with some bad throws, right? 12 turnover-worthy plays is the second most in the Power 5, I believe behind Aiden Giles of Michigan State. And he leads the Power 5 with 7 dropped interceptions. I think the thing I'm seeing here, he can make some really nice throws, no question. Holstein's got a really good arm. Doesn't move a ton, but he can move a little bit to improvise the throw. But I think what I see sometimes is this tendency to kind of telegraph. 10 of those 12 turnover-worthy plays are on his first read, and I just get a little worried about it. And look, Syracuse hasn't been great in coverage. I believe they're 86 in the country in coverage grade, but there's some opportunity here for Syracuse with the way Holstein sometimes is trying to fit balls into tight windows, some turnover-worthy plays. He's gotten a little bit lucky so far with the way some of the breaks have gone his way. If it goes against him in this game, might have a real problem because, again, we got 2 gunslingers going in this game, and Holstein's a guy who, some of the peripherals say maybe, a hot start in the traditional stats isn't quite as telling as what's actually going on here. And Pitt's defense has been very good, but I think offensively he's got to start executing a little better, taking a few less chances with the football.
And I mentioned before the top that this is the first time we're previewing a Syracuse game. It's actually the first time we're previewing a Pitt game as well. So it's kind of an introduction for our fan base. Just like, hey, these are what these two teams are. You mentioned Holstein for Pitt. Really, Syracuse is all about Kyle McCord and how amazing he's been this year. He's currently 8th among all signal callers in college football with a 90.1 PFF grade. 21 big-time throws are tied for the most in the nation right now. He is letting it rip. He has completely changed everything about him fundamentally, it seems like. For last year at Ohio State, he was playing not to lose because he knew, hey, I'm the quarterback of Ohio State. If we lose games with this talented roster, they're going to point the finger at me, right? So he was playing not to lose, playing very conservative at times. Now you go to Syracuse, and now you know, hey, if we're going to win games, it's going to be because of me. If we're going to lose games, it's going to be because of me. So why not go out there and let it rip? So Kyle McCord has really done that so far this year. Like I said, 21 big-time throws. And really, Dawn, One of the biggest reasons why he's improved so much this year at Syracuse versus last year at Ohio State, where he's way better when defenses try to get after him. Last year at Ohio State, he really struggled under pressure and against the blitz. Last year, he had a 68 passing grade when blitzed. That was 56th in the country, 4 big-time throws, 6 turnover-worthy plays. This year at Syracuse, 91.4 grade against the blitz with 14 big-time throws and 4 turnover-worthy plays. That's tied for second in the country in passing grade against the blitz. Under pressure, last year, he had a 33.5 passing grade under pressure last year with 4 big-time throws and 7 turnover-worthy plays. So one of the worst in the country under pressure, 7th in the country this year under pressure with a 76.5 passing grade with 7 big-time throws and 3 turnover-worthy plays. So through the first half of the season, he already has more big-time throws under pressure and more big-time throws when blitzed than he did all of last year as well. That is important to note for this game because Pitt has sent a blitz 211 times this year. That's tied for the most in the Power 4, and of course that helps them generate pressure a lot. They have the 16th best pressure rate in the country at 38.5%. So usually that high pressure rate, that high blitz rate helps the defense out. But in this game against Kyle McCord, you might want to think, hey, Pat Narduzzi, be a little more conservative against McCord because he has been so lights out against the blitz and against pressure. And also the fact that if you blitz, that obviously leaves your secondary a little vulnerable with less guys back there. And Pitt's secondary has the 73rd best team coverage grade this year, while Syracuse's receiving core is pretty good. So if they blitz, I really think Kyle McCord has an opportunity to torch that Pitt secondary.
Yeah, and I think it's a defense for Pat Narduzzi. It's always been like this, where they are daring opposing quarterbacks to make throws like that, to make vertical throws. Fine, we'll get in press coverage on the outside. We'll run quarters. You throw into the teeth of our coverage, and we'll see if you can beat it. But McCord, like you mentioned, I mean, is there a guy, maybe one or two others, whose confidence has increased as much as McCord's has this year? I mean, we keep calling him the ripcord, and that's basically what it is. He's just letting it rip. And I think for him, and you mentioned it's a good group of weapons, right? Talk about Aronde Gadsden, talk about Trevor Pena in the slot. You know, even LaQuint Allen at running back, he can catch the ball a little bit, but McCord is letting it rip downfield. He's been doing it all year, and I think it is an attribute that's going to help him in this game.
Absolutely, yeah. The confidence, I mean, you see videos of him dancing in the locker room. We never really saw that at Ohio State last year. You see him talking trash on the sidelines. You never saw that at Ohio State either. So just the confidence is through the roof for him right now, which I think is ultimately why Syracuse is succeeding so much. But, Dawn, ultimately, will Syracuse pull off the upset on the road and become a top 25 team, or will Pitt go 7-0 and continue to climb the rankings?
Yeah, I think Syracuse actually does pull it off. I have them 27-19. I think there's a lot of different ways this game could go because you really do have two gunslingers playing quarterback here. But the payoff to me has been higher with McCord. He's been making more of those big throws. There's been real offensive production in big games, you know, against good ACC teams, right? Whereas, you know, with Pitt in the Power 5 games that they've played, their offense has been really inconsistent. They've been winning more with their run defense, keeping things close to the vest. I think, you know, and they've been relying on some big comebacks too. They had a 21-point comeback against Cincinnati. They had, I believe it was a late 10-point comeback against West Virginia, and West Virginia's got arguably the worst secondary in the country. Pitt's been really riding a very fine line here, but I think Syracuse, Syracuse might be the best team they've played so far. I think it's a good argument for it, but McCord, I think, just brings a little bit more to the table on the positive side than Holstein right now. I think either team could win the game. I think it very well could come down to which quarterback turns the ball over more, but I trust McCord a little bit more. I'm going to go with Syracuse.
I'm glad you did that because I'm also going with Syracuse, and I didn't want to be accused of picking my alma mater, being a little homer to my alma mater.
Well, we're going to do it anyway.
We're doing it anyway. Yeah. I'm also picking Syracuse. I got them 31-28. I just think if they blitz as often as Pitt has done this year, that's a big-time advantage for Kyle McCord for how good he's been against the blitz. And like I said before, Pitt has a below-average secondary as well. And I just trust McCord a little bit more than Holstein right now. It's been solid for them, but McCord has played like a top 10 quarterback in the country. So I'm going with Syracuse in this game and ruins Pitt's undefeated season. I think, and Syracuse after this week will be in the top 25 after this. So Syracuse, we both have Syracuse beating Pitt.